Are you ready to give your employees and customers smooth, secure digital experiences? Then you need Ping Identity. As an identity security pioneer, Ping champions your unique identity so your employees can be productive rock stars and your customers can engage with your brand wherever and however they want with lovable digital experiences. I'm the Chief Identity Champion and I'm here to help. Visit pingidentity.com today.
Find everything you need for the happiest of holidays at Pool City. Pool City isn't some faraway website where you never know what'll be shipped to your door. With over 50 years in Pittsburgh, our stores are filled with the most realistic Christmas trees around. This weekend, find doorbuster deals, like our 9-foot tree with 500 lights, only $199, or a 7.5-foot pre-lit tree for only $119. So don't get tricked by those point and clicks. Touch, look, and feel. Only at Pool City.
This episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Stay tuned at the end of this commercial for details on how I could get you free money, and I'm not even making that up. But before we get there, what is Robinhood? Robinhood is an investing app. It is the most easiest and convenient way for you to learn and invest stocks and trade stocks. Now, you're probably thinking, like, how is this even possible with an app? I have somebody already. You know, a lot of people already have someone already. They're stock agent, they're stock broker with Edward Jones or one of these companies that handles their money for them. Enough. Stop doing that. It's absolutely ridiculous. You want to see your money. You want to have full control over your money, and this is how you do it. Now listen, take me for example. I had no idea, absolutely no knowledge on stock trading until a friend of mine told me about Robinhood. I checked Robinhood out, and it teaches you how to invest, and it teaches you what to buy and what not to buy, and when to sell and when not to sell. It teaches you all that, so you can be someone who, most people that, well, I don't know nothing about that, so I'm not going to do that. It's okay. They teach you everything, and it's easy. It's simple. So, once again, a little bit more of an example. I had some money with Edward Jones. I had quite a bit up with Edward Jones. I had, like you, someone handling my money for me. A really, really nice guy. But the thing is that I wasn't making much of a profit all year. I wasn't making any money with Edward Jones. So I started doing Robinhood, and I started noticing that my money was growing, and I was making a profit. And then all of a sudden, I'm making money in my sleep. And I'm like, how is this even possible? It's because I was investing correctly, and I was taught by Robinhood on how to invest. So I made a phone call to my Edward Jones agent and said, hey, give me all of my money. I'm putting it on Robinhood. And I took all of my money out of Edward Jones, and I made more of a profit. In one day, I tripled my profit on Robinhood than I did in an entire year with Edward Jones. I'm not even making this up, folks. Switch to Robinhood. Put your money in Robinhood. You have full control of your money with Robinhood. Check it out. Robinhood is in the App Store. It should be an Android. They're all over the place. Robinhood, you've probably seen the commercials on TV, and I can attest, they are the absolute best. Now, they're not like some bogus app that they take your spare change, and they have full access to your bank account, and they steal your money all day. Look, I don't agree with that at all, and neither does anyone else. With Robinhood, you put in your bank account, yes, where's the money going to come from? But you have full control over your money. It's very simple. So, you got to get Robinhood. Download it today and check this out. Before you download, I got a link in the description. All of my listeners get a free share in any stock if they hit the link in the description. Check it out. I got a link in the description of this episode that'll take you straight to Robinhood, and it'll ask you, hey, you want a free stock? And you click that, and it brings you to the page. You put in your information, you put in your bank account, all that good stuff. Where are you going to get your money from? And then from there, you have the option. It gives you the free stock option. I think you'll click one of 3 boxes, and then you'll pick one. Who knows? You could get Disney, Tesla, Coca-Cola, Apple, any oil and gas stock you can think of. It's absolutely random. Look, you could get a $430 stock. You could get a $20 stock. You could get a $4 stock. You could get a $14 stock. It's completely random. So anyways, folks, what are you waiting for? Download Robinhood today. Hit the link in the description of this episode. Get Robinhood. Make some money. Invest with Robinhood. Download them today in the App Store or just hit the link in the description. Get you some free money.
Welcome to The Experience with Bryce Bourdeaux. Only the biggest and best names in professional wrestling interviewed right here on The Experience. Follow The Experience on Facebook at The Experience with Bryce Bourdeaux, on Instagram at The Experience Live. Like, subscribe, and follow on this app.
All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Experience with Bryce Bourdeaux. I'm your host, Bryce Bourdeaux. Hashtag insert catchphrase here. Hashtag right to left. Because it goes right to left. Another great episode. Seriously, folks, a big episode. Happy to welcome to the show a fellow ring announcer in this crazy world of wrestling. He is the ring announcer for Ring of Honor, Nick Lendl. And Nick is one of the ring announcers for Ring of Honor, alongside Bobby Cruz, and this is official. Bobby Cruz still with the company. I thought for a second Bobby left. Bobby is still there. Nick's like the B announcer, Bobby's the A. No discredit to Nick, man, because Nick is the real deal, and he's going to tell you all about that in this episode. Of course, you might have seen Nick recently with the Ring of Honor Pure Championship Tournament. I think it was won by Jonathan Gresham, the Octopus. I love that stuff. But you probably saw him just knocking it out of the park, like I always say, on the mic for the ROH Pure Tournament. And we talk a lot about the Pure Tournament, behind the scenes, what it was like with COVID, filming this great tournament. And of course, his announcing as well. We talk about his announcing during that, of how he stretched out the names for the main event, which is very cool. I like that a lot. But we talk about all kinds of stuff, of course, with Ring of Honor and how he gets into Ring of Honor. And, of course, announcing at Madison Square Garden, something that not many people get to do. You know, the old saying goes, if you can work in the Garden, you can work anywhere. And Nick Lendl announced at the Garden. So, super cool. He talks about all of that, and of course, we talk about just wrestling announcing advice. You know, if you out there want to become a wrestling ring announcer, if you don't know what you want to do in wrestling, we want to be a part of it. We talk a lot about that and how you can do it. And we also talk about Nick's story of how he got in this business. Get this. He's going to talk more about it. But he just went to take a tour. He took a fan tour, paid $2,000 to go take a tour of the WWE PC in Orlando, Florida. And they gave him a shot. They gave him a shot just to try out. And bam, right there, he was a ring announcer for NXT. Just for that one night, though. After that, they set him up, and well, he tells the story. It's actually a very cool story. Not many people can say they started out working for WWE. So yeah, all kinds of cool stuff. Nick Lendl is on the show today. A great episode. Seriously, folks. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be great. Check it out. Stay tuned. Nick Lendl, Ring of Honor, ring announcer, coming up next right here on The Experience. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my guest at this time, he is the ring announcer for Ring of Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest is Nick Lendl. Nick, what's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. Thanks a lot for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. I've been wanting to have you on. Of course, a ring announcer myself. I love your style, and we'll talk more about that later on. But, man, you have done some big stuff recently with Ring of Honor. Of course, you always have, but recently Ring of Honor is back with the Pure Championship Tournament, and you were the announcer for the whole tournament, correct?
Yep, the whole tournament, yeah.
You absolutely knocked that out of the park, too, man. That was awesome stuff.
Oh, thank you. That's nice of you to say.
Yeah, dude, how was that, and what was the decision to come back with the Pure Championship Tournament?
Well, the Pure Championship has been, something that they've been talking about bringing back for a while now, months before the, global crisis started. And actually it was the 17th or 18th anniversary, whatever it is, this year at the anniversary pay-per-view for Ring of Honor in Vegas, which I believe was supposed to be in March. They were going to have the tournament then to crown the new Pure Champion over the course of, those couple days of taping. And the global crisis hit, and they just paused taping indefinitely. And, from around March until, I guess the first week of September was just all highlight shows and, recap packages and all kinds of stuff, because there really wasn't any content to be, put out. There was a lot of stuff on the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, what have you.
Right.
But yeah, it was just so hard to not be, a part of any of that. And then unfortunately, as things would happen, Xavier, who was a former Pure Champion, was, slated to make his return to the ring in March for that tournament. And obviously everything happened. It was postponed, and he actually passed away, during the pandemic here. So when we restarted, he was not part of the tournament, which is, a little unfortunate. But, we did get the tournament done. It was a long week. We were in Baltimore for 7 days to tape 8 episodes of TV.
Wow.
So it was a long week, but we had to be there early because of the pandemic. We all had to get the coronavirus test, and we all had to quarantine in our rooms and make sure that nobody was, coming out with a positive test, which nobody did. I was surprised. I thought there would at least be 1 or 2 with, all the talent and the production and, staffing and all that. I thought there'd at least be 1, but everybody was negative, so we got to run the shows. So what they did was, they kept us all quarantined. Everybody had their own room, which
wow.
It can be good and then can be bad. It's nice to have your own room for a night, but when you have your own room for an entire week, it's kind of boring. Especially me. I have a wife and 2 kids at home, so my life is always, boom, 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 boom. I'm not used to the resting and relaxing and just being by myself for a week. So that was kind of interesting to just have that time, because I didn't know what to do with myself.
Right. I bet in Baltimore too. I mean, I'm assuming up north everything is pretty much shut down as well, so you can't really go out to a bar or a restaurant.
Well, and even if it was open, like you said, I believe everything was closed up there. But
wow.
From the time we checked into our hotel room until we left for the arena, we weren't allowed to leave our room. They had very strict policy about everybody staying in their room. Anything we needed would be delivered to our room, whether it be, room service or DoorDash or even a bucket of ice. Anything you needed, you had to call this number, and they would get you anything you needed. So they did very much take care of us. So I don't want to make it negative in that point.
Right.
They very much did. Took care of us and made sure we had everything we needed. But, just to be by yourself for that week, and especially, being from Pittsburgh, I drove to Baltimore with Joe Mandek, who's a referee for Ring of Honor. He's from Pittsburgh too. So,
right.
Ring of Honor got us a car, because that's too short for a flight. Usually they fly us anything above 5 or 6 hours, but Baltimore is like a 3-hour drive. So instead they just got us to rent a car.
Oh, nice.
And, so me and Joe Mandek drove the 3.5 hours, whatever it is, to Baltimore from Pittsburgh. And then when we got to the hotel, we had to split. It was kind of weird. Like, he went his way, I went my way, and we didn't see each other until the tapings, which kind of weird, because we had driven together and we had stopped to eat on the way and the whole deal. But we both came out negative from the COVID test, so it was good. But yeah, just a little different, definitely a different atmosphere, because you definitely don't get that alone time,
right.
whenever you're in the arena or at the hotel, whatever.
Right. So whenever, I mean, if you can pull back the curtain, I mean, like the backstage situation, like, and that's actually, like, that is really, really professional, like the way they did everything. And, I mean, your major companies, which it's smart for them to do that. And I heard that Dave Marquez is pretty much doing the same thing in Los Angeles for the primetime wrestling tapings. And of course, I think they're doing the same thing overseas in Japan right now. But that is very smart. And I know a lot of promotions out there that is doing the absolute opposite of that. And it's just, hey, we're wrestling. It's like no changes. But that's very, it's very professional that they are doing that, and that's the correct thing to do. What was the situation like backstage? We can't be around each other. You want to stay as completely socially distanced as possible, so stay in your rooms, don't leave. But what's the situation like backstage? Is everybody just have their own area, no one's allowed to interact except for in the ring?
Yeah, see, that was a little different too. You got your protocol, the night before. So myself being the ring announcer for all 8 of the episodes, I had to be there all day. We were taping from I think we started taping at 10 a.m. and we would go until about 9:30, 10 at night. So we were there all day. And myself, the referees, Todd Sinclair, Joe Mandek, Ian Riccaboni, Caprice Coleman, who are on commentary, Quinn McKay also, who's the host of the show, broadcaster as well. We were there the entire length of the taping. Now, the way they did it was they allowed 1 hour for every match. So we would start at 10 a.m. So the first match, they would wrestle, and if it was a 20-minute match, we would have 40 minutes they would have, the staff clean the ring, change the ropes, do the whole deal, sanitize the entire area, and then at 11 o'clock, we would start shooting the next match. So if the next match went 15 minutes, after that 15 minutes, you had 45 minutes to clean the ring and change the ropes and change the mat and sanitize everything. And then at noon, the next match would start, and it was that process. Now, you have longer matches. You have guys like Jay Lethal and Jonathan Gresham who, like to have longer matches. So if you have a match that runs 35, 40 minutes, once their match is over, there's 20 minutes now to clean the ring and clean the ropes. But I will say that the mat was changed in between every match. Everything was sanitized. And another thing you asked about the backstage situation, there was a schedule of when your matches were, and there was a shuttle that would go to the hotel and bring the guys in for their match. And once their match was over, they would be taken back to the hotel. So the guys weren't there the entire day. So, if your match was scheduled to start taping at 4 o'clock, they'd pick you up at 3 o'clock, whatever, take you to the arena. You'd meet with your opponent and talk about, some stuff that would go on later. And then you'd go out, you'd shoot it. And once the match was over, you'd go back to your room. So, a little hectic for those guys. Like I said, I was there the entire time. But that's what it was, the entire time was they brought you in for your match. They brought you back. And there were, very separate areas. They had for each interval, whenever a guy would be brought in, they would have their own locker room, and in between that locker room would be sanitized for the next guy to come in. But it was very, very strict because the athletic commission, the Maryland State Athletic Commission was there the entire time.
Oh boy! So
they were overseeing everything. They and we were told right from the get-go that they were looking for infractions.
Yep.
They were there looking for it. So we were just told beforehand, hey, wear a mask, unless you you're in the ring or in the ringside area. Now, for me, when I ring announced in the ring, I had my mask off. But during the match, when I'm, seated at ringside at my table, I had my mask on. So unless I was talking into the microphone, I had my mask on the entire time.
Right.
It was very, very strict and, very nerve-wracking, too, because you don't know what they're looking for. And in the second day, I guess they saw some things they didn't like the first day, and they wrote it down, and they, gave it to, whoever was in charge and told them, this is what we're looking for the second day. So there was a lot of pressure on us the second day, especially, you don't want to be the guy that ruins it for the whole crew, because they said, if we see any of this, there's no warning the second day. It's just, hey, we're shutting it down. So for the ring announcer, like we mentioned, before we started recording, I'm not even the A ring announcer. Bobby Cruz is still the A ring announcer. I'm the B ring announcer. If something I did to screw that up, it would be such a, kick in the gut, So I'm just happy that everything worked out, and we got 8 weeks of TV in the can, and it all aired, and the reaction online seems to be awesome for the Pure Title tournament. So I'm happy with that.
Yeah, you're right, man. That tournament was awesome. Very, very cool stuff for them to bring it back as well. Wrestling was amazing. Of course, the ring announcing was A+. Awesome job on your part. But you mentioned Bobby Cruz, and I honestly, man, I'm glad that we talked about him, because I thought for a second that he might have just taken a break from announcing, but you said right that he is still a ring announcer, right?
Yes, absolutely. The relationship I have with Bobby is better than I could have ever expected going in, because Bobby has had that spot since I think it was 2004 that he started as the lead ring announcer. And I had my ROH tryout in 2017. So I met Bobby in 2017, and we actually, we hit it off pretty fast, actually. I was kind of nervous because, especially for a ring announcer, that's not a spot, that they hire multiple people for. It's not like, oh, this guy's a good wrestler, let's just bring him in. And then, you need more than one wrestler. You don't need more than one ring announcer. So when Bobby Cruz saw that I was at the tryout and, I was starting to get booked for these shows, he very easily could have thought to himself, who's this young guy trying to come in and take my spot?
Right.
He's not taking my spot. Who's this little, cocky asshole think he is taking my spot? And it's not like that. Bobby has very much taken me under his wing.
Wow.
And taught me a lot. And like you said, you thought Bobby might have left the company because I'm on there more, and that is directly because of Bobby. Bobby has given me more opportunities than anybody in that company. A lot of times it's Bobby that speaks up and says, hey, why don't we book Nick for this show? Or why don't we fly Nick to this show and instead of me? And now especially Bobby has 2 daughters that are college aged. So the last couple of years they had graduations and they had college visits and college move-in days and the whole deal. So if there was a show going on during that, Bobby was able to miss that show because they could use me instead. And it started as, okay, Bobby can't do this show, let's book Nick instead, to, okay, let's book Nick and Bobby, to now what it is almost Bobby saying, hey, why don't you use Nick for this show? Or, hey, why don't you use Nick for this show? And that's part of the reason why I got to do the Pure tournament, and that's part of the reason why I got booked to announce at Madison Square Garden, too. That was because I believe that I was not going to be booked for the Madison Square Garden show. And I think in a production meeting a few weeks ahead of time, Bobby was the one that spoke up and said, hey, why don't we bring in Nick to announce a match or two? What an incredible experience that would be for him to announce at Madison Square Garden. And it was Bobby that, threw my name in the hat for that. So, Bobby's very, very much still there. Actually, they did a second round of tapings. The tapings I was at for the Pure tournament, that was in August, and they did a second round of tapings in October, and Bobby was the ring announcer for those.
Okay.
So the episodes that are airing now, the next few weeks, Bobby will be the ring announcer. But, I can't say, enough nice things about Bobby Cruz. He's, given me so many opportunities, and he's really, really become a friend to me. And, I have 2 little girls at home, obviously a lot younger than Bobby's girls, so I look to him as a role model for how he treats his girls. It's gone beyond wrestling. Bobby's always at their softball games and their hockey games, what have you. Bobby's always there. Bobby's a big part of their life as much as he's on the road and away. He's very much still there and still dad, and that's what is important to me as the guy that I used to watch as a fan. Being, you're a ring announcer too, so you sit there and you watch this guy and you say, man, he's a damn good ring announcer, and you look up to him in that sense. But once you get to know the man behind it and the human and the dad, that there's not enough respect goes out to Bobby Cruz, and Bobby Cruz is, and it goes beyond me. I know Ian Riccaboni holds Bobby in high regard for getting him, maybe a foot in the door, and Matt Taven as well. Bobby Cruz had a hand in, getting him in the door as well. So, Bobby's a lot more than just a ring announcer. Bobby is a big part of that company. And, if or when he does leave, I don't know how people will react to to him being gone. I still get it. Now to this day when I go out, there's always still 2 or 3 people in the crowd that'll yell, "Where's Bobby?" You're not Bobby Cruz. So, he'll still be there, but I'm just happy to be a part of it. This is all I've ever wanted to do, and he's a big part of the reason why I get to do it still. So, that's all I can say about him. He's a great guy.
Well said about Bobby Cruz. And we'll talk a little bit more about Bobby later on in the episode. I got a couple questions about him. But you mentioned Madison Square Garden and announcing there. And we're going to talk about that. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break, Nick. We're going to be right back right here on The Experience in just a few moments.
Everybody needs reliable home internet, but who needs the hassles that come with it? That's why T-Mobile is bringing you a new choice for high-speed home internet without annual service contracts or data caps. With T-Mobile home internet, you get a fast and reliable connection for just $50 a month with autopay. That's right, $50 a month with no hidden fees and no price hikes. So Minnesota, what are you waiting for? Sign up at T-Mobile.com/home internet.
During congestion, home internet customers may notice speeds lower than other customers due to data prioritization. Coverage not available in all areas. Qualifying account and credit required. $5 more per month without autopay. See rep for details.
This holiday season, what if there was less ringing and more singing? What if there was less posting and more toasting? Some of the best shares are the times shared with friends and family. So drop that cell phone and pick up a cue stick. Gather this holiday in your new game room from Pool City, where you can find slate pool tables from $16.88. Don't miss air hockey, shuffleboard, bars, bar stools, and more. So put down those phones and make your house into a home. Only at Pool City.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, back here on The Experience talking to Nick Lendl. I keep saying Ring of Honor ring announcer. There's so many R's, there's so many rings there, but Ring of Honor ring announcer, Nick Lendl here. And we were just talking about Bobby Cruz, and I said we'll talk about him later on, but you mentioned while talking about Bobby, Madison Square Garden, and that was for the big Supercard of Honor event. Or no, it was the Supercard New Japan show, right? That was in Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, the joint show, the G1 Supercard.
G1 Supercard, that's it. Yeah. So how was Madison Square Garden? I could assume being from up north, that is just the holy grail and just the cathedral of events. How was it being in that venue announcing there?
Well, I hate to say this because it's cliche and it's said over and over, but it was a dream. It was a dream come true. It's something that you never think could happen, especially when you break into the business and you start announcing or start working for different companies. You have your goals. I want to sign a contract, and I want to be on TV, and I want to announce at WrestleMania, or whatever your goals are. And I think whether you're a referee, announcer, wrestler, whatever it may be, this goes beyond wrestling. If you're an entertainer in any sense, sports, or whether it be music or what have you, the dream is to one time perform at Madison Square Garden. And on the wrestling aspect of it, when you break in, you think, okay, it's definitely a goal of mine, but the only way I'll ever be able to do this realistically is if I work for WWE.
Right.
Because WWE was the only company that ran Madison Square Garden from 1963, I think it was. So you get this news that Ring of Honor is going to be working there, and I wasn't signed to a contract, so I'm thinking, it could happen, maybe it could happen because, I'm working regularly for this company, and, it's a big day, maybe I'll get a shot to be on this show, but I wasn't really, trying to think about it because, if you think about something and then it doesn't happen, it feels like it was ripped away, that much worse. But as it got closer, I got a call from, or actually a text message from Bobby Cruz. I think it was a few weeks out, and he said, hey, I need to talk to you. And at this point, I was not booked for the show at Madison Square Garden, which was a heartbreaker. But at the same time, I didn't expect it. I'm not under contract to the company. I'm not the main ring announcer. And not to mention they're splitting up the card with New Japan too, so it wasn't just ours. And so I call Bobby, and I always get this nervous feeling like when I call Bobby, like he's going to give me bad news. But he said, I was talking to some people, and we think it'd be a good idea for you to get that experience. We're going to let you ring announce, a match at the Garden. And that was bigger than anything I could imagine. At that point, that was bigger than getting signed to a contract. That was bigger than, and to me, to this day, that experience is still, more important to me than announcing at WrestleMania. Because if you talk to people, in the wrestling business, of course, their goal, I want to wrestle WrestleMania. I want to wrestle WrestleMania. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. But on the outside looking in, if you talk to somebody that's never watched wrestling, that's not a fan, that doesn't know the business, and they meet you through a friend or whatever, and you get to talking, and they say, "Oh, what do you do?" And you say, "Oh, I'm a ring announcer for a wrestling company," and they think, "Oh, okay, that's that stuff that Hulk Hogan does. That's that. Okay, whatever." And they say, "Hey, do you ever do any big shows?" And if you say to them, "Yeah, I did WrestleMania last year," that might not resonate with them, because unless you're a wrestling fan, you don't know what WrestleMania is. WrestleMania could be what it is, that big spectacle with 100,000 people, but it could also be, they could just call the random, show with 150 people at the county fair. They could just call that WrestleMania. That guy doesn't know what WrestleMania is. But if you say, "Oh yeah, I've announced at Madison Square Garden,"
oh yeah,
I think that resonates with everybody, regardless. "Oh wow, like I don't know nothing about that wrestling, but this guy was at Madison Square Garden." They get it. So to me, I've never announced at WrestleMania, obviously, but to be honest with you, and I could change my mind if it happens, but at this point, I honestly think, to me, announcing at Madison Square Garden would be bigger than announcing at WrestleMania if you think about it that way.
Yeah, the way you put it, you're exactly right. Because I know plenty of people that, like, whenever you talk to somebody and they're like, "What do you do?" What do you like to do? Like, "Oh, well, I'm a ring announcer." "Oh, you work for WWE?" I'm like, well, that's what everyone thinks, of course. But, I mean, you bring that to a great point, because Madison Square Garden is so universal in anything, in music, entertainment, basketball, whatever, wrestling, boxing, plenty of other things, is so universal. And but yeah, the way you put it like that, it's bigger than WrestleMania, and I could understand. I mean, did you ever think that you would be announcing at Madison Square Garden, like, ever in your entire life?
No,
probably not.
No, I thought the only way, like I said, the only way I could do it is if I was with WWE.
Yeah,
and it just the way it happened, it was just unbelievable, and I made sure to soak it in. When I walked down the ramp, I made sure to just do a full 360 and just look at the crowd. And there's even a few shots of it if you watch the match I ring announced. When they show the ring, you can just tell what I was feeling, because I'm standing in the ring and the camera catches me a couple times, that I'm just soaking it all in. I'm just looking around, and because I'm thinking this could never happen again. This is probably, could be the biggest moment of my career. I just need to soak it in. And I'm thinking so many things are going through your head. You're thinking about, watching wrestling growing up and hearing Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. And then you realize that you're in the middle of that stage, that runs through your head. All the people that told you it would never happen runs through your head. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's just a whirlwind, and it happens so fast, that, it's one of those things where, I always liken it to when you think of the way something's going to play out in your head and it never works out the way that you thought about it in your head. That was one of the few times in my life where I played it out in my head thousands of times before it happened, and when it happened, it was exactly how I imagined it, and it couldn't have gone any better. And and again, I have Bobby Cruz to thank for that.
Right. And talking more about, we'll talk about Bobby later on, because I have a couple questions about Bobby. But Madison Square Garden. So that was, of course, the joint show with New Japan. Did New Japan have their announcer there as well? I think they did, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Bobby announced all the Ring of Honor matches. The New Japan announcer announced all the New Japan matches, and then I announced the 6-woman tag team match,
okay.
which is an even bigger deal now because it had Hana Kimura in it, who passed away earlier this summer.
Yeah.
And that was her, one and only appearance at Madison Square Garden. And I was, fortunate enough to be a part of that.
Wow.
So, yeah, it just makes it even a bigger deal now, because she was, man, dude, 2 or 3 years from now, she was going to be a huge star. She had something special, and it's a shame, what happened at the end of her story. It's a shame.
Right. Yeah, yeah, definitely. That was really rough, man. I still remember that. But talking more about the Madison Square Garden show, and thank you for saying that as well. I'm glad. I didn't think we would mention Hana Kimura, but rest in peace, Hana Kimura. Seriously, man, that was a heartbreaker for a lot of people in this industry. But talking more about Madison Square Garden, you mentioned the New Japan announcer. Do they have the English New Japan announcer too, or is that the same guy?
No, he was. It was the Japanese speaking announcer,
okay.
And I because I was in the meeting whenever he met with Bobby. It was me, it was myself, Bobby, and the New Japan ring announcer. And I'm almost embarrassed right now because I can't think of the guy's name. But
it's okay.
It was the three of us in a room and just going over, the matches. And I remember a big, point of contention that I really took in was there was a battle royal beforehand, almost like a Royal Rumble type match, where every minute or whatever a new wrestler would come in, and the way they announced it was there was I think 15 New Japan guys and 15 Ring of Honor guys, and Bobby would announce the ROH guys when they came out, and the New Japan announcer would announce the Japanese guys when they came out. So they had to coordinate. Okay, you announce this, you announce this. So
oh boy,
just seeing Bobby Cruz be able to communicate with him, I was very impressed with that, because I'm just kind of sitting there in the back just taking it all in, because at that point especially I'm not going to speak up about anything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I can definitely tell where that would be super confusing, but I'm assuming, knowing Ring of Honor, they would have the graphic, like the ROH logo or the New Japan logo on the video screens on the stage, maybe to help them out a little bit. But nobody really cares about what the ring announcer has to go through. We got to go through some crazy stuff sometimes. Got to call an audible, whatever. But we'll talk a little bit about crazy audibles.
Yeah, that's a couple things I want to hear from you too, being a ring announcer. Some of those different experiences, that no one else realizes, and they're just thinking you're just saying these names and their hometown and weight, and you don't realize some of the stuff that goes into that beforehand. I could go on for days about stories where I'm losing my mind right before I'm going to be on camera, because I honestly don't know what I'm doing, and the communication has been lost in translation somewhere, and those are the best experiences.
Yeah. I didn't really want to go, and we can talk about that later. Definitely. We'll talk a little about you. I don't want to steal the spotlight on you, but we'll talk a little bit about crazy audibles in a little bit, most definitely, because there are some crazy ones. I bet you've had to go through some wild audibles. But getting back to you, so away from Madison Square Garden, of course you mentioned throughout your life, you never would have thought you'd be at Madison Square Garden. Well, let's go back before you became a ring announcer. Like, what made you become a ring announcer? Because ring announcing is very different, because you either really want to be a ring announcer or you suck at wrestling and the promoter says, "Here, kid, here's a mic, go ring announce." And that's what happens. And normally after the second time, they leave the business. So I'm very curious, man. You've done all this. I mean, of course, you're the Ring of Honor ring announcer. I said it correct this time. How does it start for you?
Well, I think everybody that gets in the business at some point wanted to be a wrestler. When I watched wrestling for the first time, I obviously didn't say I want to be an announcer. I obviously wanted to be a wrestler, but I've always been on the smaller side, and up until a few years ago, being under 6 feet tall and under 200 pounds, you had a very small chance of making it far, in the business. And, I'm 30, so, graduated from high school a little over 10 years ago, 10, 11, 12 years ago. And back then, I played football and ran track, and I was in the gym, constantly, just with my sports that I played. And I think I was 175 pounds maybe, and that's being in the gym every day and working out and eating right and doing the whole deal.
Right.
And just the only thing at this point that I was really interested in was TV and news broadcasts and what have you. And it just turned into, all these things going together where, we would wrestle in the backyard when we were younger, and we would videotape it. And for all the matches, I was the ring announcer. I would wrestle too, but I was the ring announcer for some reason. And then, like just playing with wrestling figures. When you're a kid, I'm doing the ring announcing when, they come to the ring. And just from watching wrestling so long, I started to memorize where guys were from and how much they weighed, and the way they were introduced, and it was about the time, I think I was like a junior in high school, that I realized I wasn't going to get any bigger. And, the chances of me making it far in the wrestling business as a wrestler wasn't going to happen at that point in 2008 or 2009. So I said, you know what, I think I want to try my hand at ring announcing, because other than that, I was interested in broadcasting and the whole deal. I knew that I didn't want to sit in a cubicle. I knew that I, had no interest in, a real job, if you want to say that. But I'm getting out of high school, and my parents are making me go to college. So, I decided, okay, I'll go to school for broadcasting. And I actually reached out to Justin Roberts, who was in WWE for a while, and now he's the AEW announcer. Yeah. So I reached out to him and just asked him, I said, I really want to be a ring announcer. This is what I want to do. And he said to go to school, get educated, get a degree in communications. So that was all I needed to hear. So I went to college. I went to Robert Morris University here in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
And I got a degree in communications and broadcast journalism, the whole deal. And I was on their news network for a year or two. And as soon as I graduated, I never looked to working at the indies, because before I was actually involved in the indies, I had that negative feeling towards it, because I had never really gone out and experienced it personally. So I thought it was more or less just, an empty gymnasium with the basketball hoops at some rundown high school with guys that can't work anymore, and I didn't want to be associated with that. Wow. But so I never even, and now looking back on it, I almost want to kick myself, because, I could have been in the business so much longer. But I started sending demo tapes out. I got headshots made, and, I wrote resumes and cover letters, and I sent numerous demos and letters to WWE and Ring of Honor and Impact at the time. Those were the three that I really sent letters to. And I heard back from Impact. I was actually talking to Bob Ryder for a little bit. It's another one that
R.I.P. R.I.P.
Yeah, we're talking about so many people that
Rest in peace, Bob Ryder.
Aren't here anymore. It's really a mind opener. But Bob Ryder. I was talking to him for a little bit about coming into work for Impact, And for one reason or another, that just didn't happen. And I got a few letters back from WWE saying that while I was, college educated and I did have the degree that they were looking for, I had no experience in the wrestling business. And it's kind of funny because I never heard back from Ring of Honor. So I was talking back and forth with WWE. I was talking back and forth with Impact. I never heard anything from Ring of Honor, and that's where I ended up. So that's kind of funny. But, from the time I graduated, I just I started sending out demos, and eventually I saw WWE was doing a live tour of their performance center. And it was going to be the first time they ever opened up the doors of the performance center for a tour. And I think this was 2015. So they said it was going to be, limited to 25 people, and it was going to be a tour of the performance center. And after the tour, there would be a Q&A session with the staff and the wrestlers and whoever. So that's what really jumped out to me, was after this tour, there's a Q&A, and there, the NXT staff and WWE, producers and whatever are going to be there, and you're going to have an opportunity to talk to them. So I didn't care about the tour. I didn't care about meeting wrestlers. I've never really been, like that. So to me, it was just this Q&A. So I went online, and I think it was like $2,000. It was a lot of money.
Wow.
Yeah, it was, and that doesn't, you had to fly yourself down. You had to get your own hotel room. That was, didn't include any of that. So to me, it was, this is maybe once in a lifetime. So I bought the ticket, and I paid the $2,000, and I scheduled a weekend, getaway to Orlando for me and my wife. And I went to the Performance Center and, kept my mouth shut the entire time, went through the tour, was respectful of everybody, and as soon as the time for that Q&A hit, my hand went up, and I just said, I want to be a ring announcer. I've sent some demos, but I keep getting turned down. What's my next step? And here, another surprise that they were going to do for the people that paid the money to go to the Performance Center. After the Q&A, they were going to have like their own little house show in the Performance Center for just the 25 people that paid for the tour. So they were going to have 6 or 7 matches with the NXT roster that were just going to put on a little mini show in front of us. And Matt Bloom right away said, do you want to ring announce some matches at our live event tonight? Just like that.
Wow.
And I said, yeah, absolutely. So I think at first it was, okay, this kid paid his money. He wants to be a ring announcer. Let's let him, live it and get a little taste of it. And at this point, they didn't know if I was going to be good. They didn't know who I was. They didn't know anything. They just wanted to kind of do their good deed.
So you had no ring announcing. You had, other than like in the backyard with your friends. You had no independent wrestling.
Nope.
Wow.
I had not worked one independent show. I had not. Like you said, other than in the backyard. So they put me in the ring for the second match, and the second match was a women's tag team match, and it was Billie Kay and Peyton Royce.
Nice.
Versus Liv Morgan and Aaliyah.
Okay.
So that was the first match I ever ring announced, was the Iconics versus Liv Morgan and Aaliyah. So I announced it, and I get out of the ring, and one of the producers, with a earpiece comes over to me, and they said, hey, they really like you. They were blown away by, how you just did that. They want you to do another match. They want you to, they want to see you do another match. So I said, okay. So they give me a single match, and it was somebody that was only there for a little bit. They were only there for a few weeks, and then they were released or whatever the deal was. So I don't remember who it was, but I remember they faced Ty Dillinger, who's Sean Spears now.
Yeah.
So I introduced Ty Dillinger, and the same thing. They came over to me after the match and said, they're going nuts backstage because they can't believe, how good you are. And now at this point, I had never done this, so I didn't know if I was good or not. I just wanted to do it. And they said they want you to do a title match. So they gave me the NXT Women's title match, and it was Bayley and Alexa Bliss. So,
wow.
So I announced Bayley and Alexa Bliss for the NXT Women's title, and after the show, Matt Bloom comes up to me again and says, "Hey, you're really good." They said, we're not looking for any ring announcers right now, unfortunately, but you have something. We want to keep track of what you're doing, and we want to, keep tabs on you. And soon enough, I think a week or two after I came back home, I got this big manila envelope in the mail, and it was a DVD of clips of me ring announcing, and it was headshots that they had taken of me in the ring during the matches and all this stuff. And I had corresponded with Matt Bloom a little bit, and he just told me, get in touch with some indies in Pittsburgh and get some experience, and we'll be taking a look at you. So that's really how I started on the indies.
That's unreal, dude.
Right. I need to start this another way now.
Dude, that is I'll be honest, man, if that ever happened to me, I mean, it's the old saying, everything you do is a tryout. I mean, that is insane. They just give you the opportunity and they're blown away, and they let you do a bunch of matches, and then they send you, your headshot and you're real. I mean, how cool, man. Really. So after this, you jump on the independent scene, right?
Yeah, and it was it was funny because I didn't know what that was going to be like, because at the time I wasn't really savvy to the independents. I didn't know what the money was like or how the shows were, or there's so many promotions out there, and every promoter's different, and every show's run different, and that's why it's called the independents. Everybody's independent; they do things the way they want, and that's great. But as I was, just posting my stuff and sending it to different people, I had got a response back from IWC, which is the International Wrestling Cartel here in Pittsburgh, probably definitely the biggest indie company in Pennsylvania. Just recently, they've had all kinds of big names. Elias trained there, so Elias is a homegrown IWC star. Corey Graves was a wrestler in IWC before he got signed and eventually transitioned into a commentator. AJ Styles, CM Punk, they've all come through IWC, so it's a pretty notable company. And I reached out to them and said, I'm looking to be a ring announcer. I'm from Pittsburgh. Didn't say anything about money. Didn't really ask any specifics. And it was kind of funny because the promoter, who's Justin Plummer, who I've become really good friends with, this is 5 years now that I've been working with him. He got back to me, and they say perception's reality, and it really is, because they saw my profile picture, of course, on all my social media is this headshot of me in the WWE ring with the WWE microphone, of course. So he responds, he said, "Look, I really want to bring you in, but I just can't pay you what WWE was paying you."
Nice.
And I had to read this 3 or 4 times because I didn't get that. And then I thought, oh, man, this guy thinks I'm coming from WWE, because he saw the picture.
Right.
And I explained to him the whole deal and just told him the story like I just told you. And he said, "Oh, that's great. Why don't you come to our next show and we'll talk?" So came to the next show. I hung out backstage, and by the next event, I was ring announcing.
That's
so
awesome.
It happened that fast.
That's too cool. And like I said, not many people start straight up in WWE and then get put on the independents. Well, I mean, the people that do are the homegrown WWE talent that are former actors or football players or whatever. But That is absolutely incredible.
It wasn't until about a year in, to the company where I started becoming comfortable with people, and because coming in, you're always told to just keep your mouth shut,
right,
and just absorb as much knowledge as you can and everything. And like I said, it wasn't until about I was a year or so in that I started feeling comfortable with these people and started, having conversations with them about things other than wrestling. And it was about that time that I started finding out that the majority of the people in the locker room had thought that I had come from WWE. They really thought that I came from WWE. I had worked there and I had either gotten released or whatever the deal may be. And I know I had to clarify, like, no, I announced for NXT technically, but I paid very much. I paid for this opportunity, and that's a way. That's twofold. You tell people that story, and they either think one of two things. They either think, A, wow, this guy wanted this so bad that he would do anything to get there, that he paid $2,000 out of his savings or out of his pocket, whatever it may be, to go just for an opportunity. Wow, I respect that guy because he respects this business so much that he would give that just for an opportunity to be here. That's the way half the people think about it. And then on the flip side, the other people think, oh my God, this guy paid $2,000 to get a picture taken in the WWE ring. Oh, what a mark. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
I see that.
It's both sides of the coin, and I'm sure there are still people that think, to this day, oh, he's just doing what he's doing now because he paid that money to WWE. And you know what? I don't care, because
who's laughing now?
I'll tell you what, man, I have more than made that money back announcing. So
hell yeah,
I say it was a good idea.
Dude, that's what I was about to ask. Like, did it pay off? I guess it did, man. Like I said, who's laughing now? I mean, that is
absolutely, yeah.
And I remember a while back, whenever I first became friends with you on Facebook, and I mean, those of you who don't really know, like, Facebook and wrestling is just like, I mean, it's just an entire community. Like, I've never met you in person. This is the first time I've actually spoken to you. But I remember seeing like clips and like a picture of you with WWE, and I was just like, how did you get to WWE? But like, this is it, and then it's absolutely unreal. Like, I've never heard anything like that. And like I said, everything's a tryout. So getting back to, I mean, we don't have to talk about that whole thing for the whole WWE thing, NXT, for a while. But I wanted to ask the other announcer. There was two announcers there, right? There was you and someone else?
Yes, Greg Hamilton was there.
Of course. I was about to ask. It's got to be Greg Hamilton, man.
Yeah.
That dude.
Yeah,
that dude's legit. Did you get to talk to him?
Yeah. And you know what? He was really cool.
Yeah,
he was really
very
cool.
Nice guy.
And, I think he kind of felt the same way. Like, before, like I said, nobody, they didn't like test me out before they put me in the ring. I think they were just kind of doing their good deed, for
right.
the day, just saying, okay, let's just give this kid an opportunity to do what he wants to do. And, I'm sitting at the timekeeper table with Greg, and it's my turn to go in the ring. And, he says to me, hey, give me your phone. I'll take some pictures of you. So I have some pictures like on my phone that Greg Hamilton took from ringside. Same with Bobby. Greg Hamilton could have had that attitude of,
right.
This punk coming in to take my spot, and he was very, very friendly and very respectful. And he told me that I was good and they liked me, and he didn't need to do that. He was very cool, and I obviously haven't talked to him since then. I think we follow each other on Twitter, but it'd be cool to just talk to him. And
yeah,
because it's like I think we keep tabs on each other. Like I talk back and forth with Mike Rome every once in a while.
Yeah, he's killing it. He's
we
really
like
good.
Yeah, we like each other's stuff on Instagram and what have you. But it's like I don't know if Greg keeps tabs on other ring announcers, so I don't even know if he realizes oh, that's that, maybe he was flicking through channels and he was watching the Pure tournament, and he said, wait a minute, I had no idea that's the guy that was with him at the Performance Center. You never know if people keep tabs on this or if they forgot about me entirely.
Right. Yeah, do that. I mean, Yeah, I bet if he even watches wrestling, I don't know if he does or not, but yeah, I'm sure he would. Yeah, Greg's a very nice guy. I got the chance to talk to him a while back in Lafayette, Louisiana. Super nice guy, very approachable. But anyway, moving on from that, dude, we're going to take a quick commercial break. Another one, folks. Stay tuned. We will be right back right after this, right here on The Experience.
Nerds. NerdWallet presents Money Questions, the lightning round. Here we go, Carol. How can people compare the best credit cards?
Turn to the nerds.
Should you pay off debt or save for retirement?
Turn to the nerds.
One more. Should I listen to my father-in-law's advice on mortgage lenders?
Turn to the nerds.
You win!
Woo!
Confetti is literally falling from the sky.
I'm going to put my winnings in a 2-year CD.
That would be prudent, Carol.
From helpful tools to expert guidance, for all your money questions, turn to the nerds at nerdwallet.com. NMLS ID number 1617539.
This holiday season, what if there was less ringing and more singing? What if there was less posting and more toasting? Some of the best shares are the times shared with friends and family. So drop that cell phone and pick up a cue stick. Gather this holiday in your new game room from Pool City, where you can find slate pool tables from $16.88. Don't miss air hockey, shuffleboard, bars, bar stools, and more. So put down those phones and make your house into a home. Only at Pool City.
Back here on The Experience, talking to Nick Lendl, the ring announcer for Ring of Honor. I got it right again. I don't know why I keep complimenting myself that I get it right, but we were talking about how you got into the business, of course, starting with WWE and then getting on the independents. So after the independent, I mean, I don't say after, but you're on the independents, and you're working for IWC, of course, International Wrestling Cartel, based out of Pennsylvania. Where does Ring of Honor come in all this? How did you get to Ring of Honor?
Well, after I started announcing for IWC, I think I was in IWC for 4 or 5 months, so I had a good amount of footage of me ring announcing at this point to make a demo tape. So I had made a minute or minute and 30-second demo tape of me ring announcing different people and at different places, and I had put it on YouTube. And I got contacted by this boxing and MMA company.
Oh, nice.
That's located in Las Vegas. They travel all over the world. It's WFC, World Fighting Championship. They do MMA and they do boxing.
Nice.
And they were coming to do a show here at the casino in Pittsburgh, and their announcer had backed out for whatever reason. So I guess they searched ring announcers on YouTube and came across me somehow and wanted to book me for the show. And at that point, it was the biggest payday I had ever seen. They gave me my check, and I couldn't believe it. At this point, I wasn't even asking what I was getting paid. I just wanted to take bookings.
Right,
and,
I feel that.
Yeah, so they gave me my check, and I couldn't believe it. And I've been working with them consistently. It started out that I would just announce for them when they were in the Pittsburgh area, and now it's moved on because it's not like wrestling where they have their own ring announcer that travels. Wherever they go, they just pay a local guy to come in and do it. They don't have a contracted ring announcer. So I still work with them. They started in the Pennsylvania shows, and then it moved on to Ohio and West Virginia, and they asked me to do a show in Vegas last year and Connecticut. So that's starting to branch off too. But just by chance, I had been asked to go in a car with somebody to go to the Monster Factory in New Jersey.
Nice.
And I had never worked there, but I had heard of the Monster Factory. I heard some guys talking about it. It's a popular name. I think even at the time, Impact was using some of the Monster Factory guys, and when they were coming to the ring, commentators would even plug the Monster Factory. Oh, these guys are from the Monster Factory. Oh, these guys are students from the Monster Factory. So I think it was a group of Pittsburgh guys that were going to the Monster Factory, for a booking, and they asked me to come, and I jumped in the car because it was a reputable company. So when I got there, there was a few people there that had big name value at the time. Punishment Martinez was there.
Of course.
Damian Priest now. QT Marshall was there.
Mm-hmm.
Preston Vance, who now is a member of the Dark Order in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were all working there, and Danny Cage, who runs the Monster Factory. Mm-hmm. had asked the guys in the car who I was, because they were all wrestlers, and they're all getting changed and putting their gear on to hopefully get a spot on the show, and I'm just kind of sitting in the corner in my suit. So they asked who I was. They found out I was a ring announcer, and as luck has it, the ring announcer didn't show up that day. Couldn't get there, car broke down, whatever the deal was. So Danny Cage put me in the ring, and I ring announced the show that night for the Monster Factory. And it was Damian Priest who pulled me aside after and said, "Listen, you're really good." And he said, at the time he was with Ring of Honor, and he says, and I'll never forget the way he said it, because I was just blown away at the way he said it. He says, why don't you announce for ROH? Like it was my choice. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like I was like, oh, nah, I'm not going to do that. Like, oh, why don't you announce for ROH? Like, just go do it.
Right.
So I explained to him, at this point I had applied for an ROH tryout 2 or 3 times. And it says right on the tryout when you get there, it says this tryout is for referees and in-ring talent only. So it was for wrestlers and referees. It's not a tryout for managers or valets or announcers or anything like that. It's a tryout strictly for referees and wrestlers. But I applied anyway, and I got turned down, I think 2 or 3 times. Just said, we apologize, but this tryout is exclusively for wrestlers and referees. So I tell, Punishment this, and I'm explaining to him, I got turned down. I already tried. And he says, well, if you do it again, fill out the application again and put my name down. So I said, oh, all right, man. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So I do that. I put his name down, and a day or 2 later, I get an email saying that I've been accepted to the tryout. So,
nice.
So I get to the tryout. I think there was about 50 people there. There was a bunch of wrestlers, a few referees, and then me. I was the lone ring announcer. So what they did was they had these tryout matches, go wrestle for 5 minutes, show us what you can do, put on a 5-minute match, whatever. And when they were doing that, they had me ring announce everybody when they came to the ring.
Nice.
And the I don't want to say the judges, but the people there that were, evaluating everybody were top name guys. Christopher Daniels was there, Jay Lethal, just top of the heap. And I remember Frankie Kazarian telling me after, he says, you're really good. You need to work here. You need to come to the next show. You need to do whatever you can. And after the tryout, they kind of told me the same thing. They said, well, we have a ring announcer. We have Bobby Cruz, which I obviously knew.
Right.
And they said, but we don't want to tell you no. So they said, next weekend we're in Concord, North Carolina. They said, if you can get to the show, we'll use you. So that's all I really needed to hear from that. After the end of that tryout, I left that tryout. I made the plans. I got some buddies together. We made a road trip to North Carolina, showed up to the arena. They let me in. They knew who I was. And that's when I met Bobby. And Bobby let me do the dark match that night, said I did a good job. Then I got booked for the next show, did the dark match, got booked for the next show, did the dark match, got booked for the next show, and they started using me as like the live event host, where before they went on the air, I would go around in the crowd and, ask the crowd, what match they were excited to see or who their favorite ROH star was or whatever the deal may be. So it's just little things here and there. And a few months in, something happened with, like I said, Bobby has 2 daughters, and something happened where he needed to be at a graduation or he needed to be at a, some kind of, softball game, whatever it may be. And I had been there a couple months. They knew me, and he just went to management and asked if I could do the whole show. They said, yeah, they'll give me a shot, and I did the entire show. And just as things fall into place, like it's just unbelievable how things happen.
Right.
This show that he couldn't make was in Pittsburgh.
It's perfect.
Yeah. So now, tells me, me, so he calls me the next day and says, hey, I can't make this show. They're going to use you. Here's what you do. Ask me if you have any questions, because this is the first time I've ever done a show by myself. Anytime I had ever announced, Bobby was there. So, I'm excited. I'm nervous. I have so many emotions running through me. And then the next thing I realize is that, I wanted my family to be there because this is the biggest thing I'd ever done at this point. And I didn't get tickets for my family because I had only been doing, the one match. And, at the time, tickets were sold out at every event we went to. They were always sold out. So, of course, the day of when I find out I'm ring announcing, I go and all the tickets are sold out. So I had to go on StubHub or some third-party site. I spent a fortune to get my wife and my mom and dad there. But, they were there and they got to see me do that show. And it was, Kenny Omega was on that show and Cody and just New Japan guy like Minoru Suzuki.
Oh, boy. Yeah.
Yeah, just all kinds of names that, it's in Pittsburgh. I'm getting the whole show. They're giving me an opportunity. And it just started happening from there where I would be the live event host. And then when Bobby couldn't make it to a show, they would book me instead. And now it's gotten to the point where I don't want to say we rotate, but I'd say Bobby probably gets 2/3 of the shows now, and then I get the other third. But It's been pretty consistent.
Yeah, that's great. And and like you were talking about earlier, that just shows you the kind of person that Bobby Cruz is, how he's willing just to let you come in and just say, here, take it, take the mic, go have fun, whatever. And that's really cool because in this business of ring announcing, and I'm sure, I don't know if you know this because you weren't really all over the independent scene, but they have a lot of It's more of like, I don't want you stealing my spot. And there's nothing wrong with that. By all means, defend your spot, But that's very cool that he's in such a high spot that he's just like, yeah, here, take it. Have fun. If I can't make it, it's all yours. Which is just, it shows you.
And I think a lot of that comes from, being there so long. He's announced so many big names. And, to me, when I was trying to get noticed, it was, if somebody is listening to my announcing, it doesn't matter if I'm announcing The Rock, The Undertaker, Stone Cold Steve Austin, or the local guy that no one's ever heard of. It doesn't matter who I'm announcing. If they like my style, that's what's going to open their eyes to me. No one cares and oh wow, this guy announced The Undertaker, he must be good. No, they don't say that. They listen to your style, and it was always, to me, working with other shows where there might be 2 ring announcers, or you try to work out the matches, and more often than not, and I understand it. It's not foreign to me, but I get it. A lot of the guys, if you work that indie show, there's usually one big name that the company brings in,
right,
usually for the draw. And more often than not, the other ring announcer wants to announce that match because I want to announce Kevin Nash, or I want to announce Billy Gunn, or Hardcore Holly, whoever the hell it may be.
Right.
To me, it was never it was never about who I was announcing. It was about, I'm going to give 100% announcing whoever I am, and the way I sound is what's going to open people's eyes to me, not who I'm announcing. And I still live by that.
Right, and dude, that's the way to be about that. And if you can go out there, and it's a term that I love using, knock it out of the park. If you can go out there and you can just knock it out of the park, doesn't matter if you go out there and you try to be Howard Finkel and put in this deep voice and like it doesn't matter. All that matters is your style and your quality, and the fact that you are getting over this talent. That's what matters, and we could talk about that right now. Just advice for ring announcers that are coming up, or people that don't even know that they can be a ring announcer, because it's very possible. And I hope that there's people out there listening to this that they want to do something in wrestling. They don't want, or they might want to wrestle, but they don't want to get hurt. Or maybe they've tried to wrestle, and after the first practice of running the ropes till they puke, they don't want to wrestle. They want to be a manager. Well, you still got to take bumps in order to do that. They want to be a ref. You still got to take bumps. But, ring announcing is a possibility. And like I had mentioned at the beginning of this episode, promoters or whatever, well, hey, kid, you can't wrestle. Here's the mic. Go ring announce. And they're just thrown to the wolves out there, and they don't really know what to do. So I guess right now we can just kind of give advice about ring announcing if you want to, if you're cool with that. Just kind of like the basics. Like, what would somebody do in order to become a ring announcer?
Well, I think that if, like you said, if somebody gets hurt or whatever, and, they walk away because they hang their head and it didn't work out, I feel like if you love this business and you want to be in this business, there is a spot for you.
Yes.
And, whether you want to be a referee, whether you want to be a manager, a ring announcer, whatever it may be, if you have the passion for it and you really go for it, then no one can tell you no. You know what I mean? It's just you can't take no. I've been told no.
Mm-hmm.
There are times when I started out that somebody wanted to use somebody else over me because they knew him or he wanted less money, whatever the deal may be. And I feel like to this day, somebody might want to use me over somebody else just because they knew who I am because I was on TV. Not because they think I'm better or what, you know what I mean? Like, right. I think that ring announcing is something that falls through the cracks so often that I feel like I mean, you might because you're a fellow ring announcer, but nobody is leaving a wrestling show saying, damn, that ring announcer was good tonight.
Yep. You're exactly right. You are exactly right.
If they do, more power to you. But you know what I mean? Ring announcing isn't going to make or break a show. You could put some guy in a suit and tie and give him some cue cards and give him a microphone, and he could get through the show. It might suck, but as soon as that bell rings, the people are going to forget that the ring announcing sucked.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's, it's so, there's an art to it.
Yep.
And when I was getting started and just getting on the indies and trying to get bookings, I know that there were so many guys that said no to me simply because, not because I was good or bad or I wanted this much money or whatever the deal was, but I know for a fact that I was turned down from bookings because, my buddy does it for free. Or, I got a guy that'll, just come in. Because watching indie matches with some big name talent, you see the ring announcer and then he's wearing like an untucked shirt and some khaki pants, and it's like
it's frustrating.
I've announced shows in 20-degree weather outside, and I've announced outside in 100-degree weather, and I'm in a suit.
Yeah,
because it's part of the job, it's part of the look, and I want to look professional. And it goes for referees too. I've seen, and they're outdoor shows, so that's their excuse. It's the summer where a referee's wearing basketball shorts and tennis shoes and an untucked referee shirt. And let me tell you something, man. If I'm going to scout a referee, I don't care how good you are. If you're dressed like that, I'm not looking at you.
Right.
You got to dress the part. You got to look the part. But little things, that people don't even think of that because you're a ring announcer, but just taking cues from cameramen or commentary or waiting to be told when to talk, or giving something that they want you to say a certain way, and you have to use that exact verbiage, and it's so different in boxing and wrestling, because in wrestling I like to not use note cards. Some guys do, some guys don't. I like to not use note cards in wrestling. Now, when I do boxing, it's almost impossible not to use note cards.
Right. Oh, right. There's so much stuff you got to say. You don't even know
some of these guys, they're sponsored by this place, and they're representing this gym, and they want you to say so much.
But it's really in art, and little things too. Things change on the fly. And, I've been in the middle of the ring, and I've started to announce the next match, and the cameraman's giving me a cue telling me that, match number 4 and 5 have been reversed.
Yeah.
And I've just announced that we're getting ready for match number 4, and it's not happening until after match. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Little things like that. And, little things like we're on a live ROH pay-per-view, and at the beginning of the night, it's a tag team match, and on my sheet it's a tag team match, and they're advertising it as a tag team match. But during the course of the time that we went on the air till the match, somebody got hurt, and it turned into a single match. So I'm in the ring, and no one tells me this, and the only reason that I know that it has been changed to a single match is because I have an earpiece, and the commentators are telling, not telling me, just for the feed, telling the audience, well, this match was originally scheduled to be a tag team match. Now it's down to a singles match because so-and-so got hurt, and that's how I find out. If they don't say that to the fans, I'm announcing the match in 10 seconds as a tag team match.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like little things that, and no one thought to tell the ring announcer. Mm-hmm. No one thinks, go out there and tell ring announcer that they switched the matches. You know what I mean? That,
right.
You fall through the cracks so often that, and it pisses you off a lot of times, for
right.
lack of a better word, because then people think that you screwed up.
Yep.
And that's not the case at all.
Everybody's looking at you. It's got to be your fault.
Yeah, and
yep.
I think the biggest mistake I've made, and I mean, there will be more, was, and I'm pulling the curtain back a little bit, but it was a first blood match. It was Matt Taven and Cody Rhodes.
Ooh.
And in the production meeting on my sheet, everything that I'm told is just, okay, Cody's winning the match. Or, not Cody, rather, Taven is winning the match. Okay. Taven's winning the match. That's all I know. So we get to the match happens. All I know is Taven's winning. I don't know how long it's going. I don't know what the finish is. I know Taven's winning. So they do this funky finish where, Cody gets hit with the belt, but he's punching Taven, and when he's punching Taven, his arm starts bleeding, or something happens to where it was going to be a confusing victory where everyone thinks Cody won, but in reality, Taven won because Taven's busted open from Cody bleeding, from Cody punching him. So everyone thinks that Taven is busted open from Cody punching him, but in reality, Cody's knuckles are bleeding from hitting him so hard. So what was supposed to happen was I was supposed to announce Cody is the winner, but then the referee realizes that it's not Taven's head that's bleeding, it's Cody's knuckles that are bleeding. So he comes to me at ringside and reverses the decision, and now I announce that Taven's the winner. Well, they didn't tell me any of that. All they told me was Taven was winning. So the bell rings, the referee calls for the bell, and I say, here is your winner, Matt Taven. Well, I just blew this whole spot. And
wow.
You know what I mean? And no one watching live realized that because, of course, Ian Riccaboni is such a pro that he was just able to, call an audible and veer left and cover for me, basically. But, yeah, there was supposed to be a whole other deal to that, another layer to that finish, and it was all botched because no one communicated with the ring announcer.
Wow, and that happens so often.
And that was not the main event of the show.
Right.
So now the rest of the show, I'm shaking because I know that I just screwed up that finish. I know that I just botched this whole angle with Taven and Cody. And I'm thinking as soon as this show goes off the air, I'm going to go back there and they're going to be waiting backstage to tear my head off,
Right.
And it wasn't like that. As soon as I got backstage, I'm scared to death. I'm thinking I'm either going to get fired, they're going to tear my head off, whatever the deal is. And they were both there and they were like, listen, man, we didn't tell you. Like we didn't, smarten you up. Like, we're sorry, that's not your fault. And I was just so relieved.
Right.
That, because, Cody Rhodes, Matt Taven, at the level they are, they didn't need to take the fall for that. But apparently, from what I've been told from other people that were backstage, as soon as they came through the curtain, right away they said, hey, we didn't tell him. It wasn't his fault. We didn't tell him. So, they had my back there. So,
that's awesome.
But I thought I was done. That was probably the biggest screw up I've ever had.
Man, I've had some big ones, but I haven't had anything quite that big. I mean, that's national television, Wow. Good stuff, man. Seriously, that's that's absolutely insane. But like I said, there might be some other ones down the road. But whenever you call audibles in this business, that's just what happens, I mean, on the independent level, I was just thinking of a time recently, well, not recently, it was a couple years back where, and you probably never had to go through this, but I was doing production for a show and doing ring announcing. So I borrowed a lighting truss and pipe and drape and the lights and the sound system, everything. I was setting that up before the show and doing the ring announcing. And so it was an afternoon show. And after I announced the main event, which is a title match, I do it boxing style, of course, and I go backstage, I'm changing out of my suit because as soon as that bell rings and everybody goes home, I'm tearing down the stage. And I'm unplugging everything. And so I'm in the back, like, getting changed, and the match is over. Well, the guy that wins the match wants the announcer to come out, and I didn't even know there was a whole spot planned that I was supposed to come out and announce the winner again or something, like it was a false finish, kind of like your situation here, where there was something else was supposed to happen. I was supposed to correctly announce that it was like disqualification, and they were like, where's the ring announcer? Where's the ring announcer? And someone comes back, they're like, where is he? And I'm just like, I'm in my shorts, like flip-flops, like about to go out there and start unplugging stuff. And I'm like, what? And they're like, dude, you're needed out there. They got a whole thing they got doing. I'm like, screw it. Take the microphone. You go do it.
Exactly. That's a perfect example of the ring announcer falling through the cracks and no one thinks about it.
Right.
Another time I can think of was I was ring announcing Kenny King, and
okay.
It was some kind of weird stipulation match. And in Ring of Honor, when I'm in the ring, I have an earpiece and I can hear commentary, and
which is awesome.
Every time that it's my turn to talk, the commentary team will pitch to me. So, Ian Riccaboni will say, okay, let's send it to Nick Lendl for your in-ring intros, or, whatever it may be. So for this match, Kenny's coming to the ring, and, they have a third on commentary, and it was a wrestler. And a lot of times the wrestlers aren't coached as to how to take cues on commentary or when to lay out or when to talk or whatever it may be. They're just told, okay, go on there and talk.
Right.
And the wrestler, Ian pitches to me, all right, let's send it to Nick Lendl. Well, then the wrestler starts talking. And I'm not going to start announcing over the wrestler's voice, So I'm waiting for him, and I think Kenny is waiting for me because, when I say Kenny King is when he goes on the top rope and does his whole taunt thing, whatever.
Right.
So he's waiting for me to say his name so he can go on the top rope. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just standing there with my arms crossed because I'm waiting for commentary to pitch to me. Now, Kenny can't hear commentary. Kenny doesn't know anything. He just thinks this dumbass is just standing in the corner not doing anything. So, by the time I finally announce him, he's like looking at me like, why did it take you so long? But, it's another thing, like no one realizes the stuff that the ring announcer goes through. Just, I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
I'm just, because I'll tell you what, if whoever it was, Jay Lethal or one of the Briscoes, I don't remember who it was, but I'll tell you what, if I would have started announcing over them, I would have heard about it when I got backstage. I definitely would have heard about, talking over Jay Lethal backstage. It's not, one of those things you do.
Right. That's interesting. You peeling back the curtain just a little bit about what you're being fed. So I always thought like you were being fed cues from whoever the producer is, okay, Nick, we're going to go to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, and then it's to you. But you're hearing just you're hearing the commentary, and Ian is cueing you. That is so cool. And it's more for TV, you know?
The referees and the ring announcer has an earpiece. Now, the referee hears the production cues. So the referee hears, all right, we're going to go to commercial in 5 seconds. Let the guys know we're on commercial. Or the referee hears in the earpiece, okay, we got 5 minutes left. Tell them we have 5 minutes left. You know, whereas I strictly hear the commentary. I don't hear any of the production cues. So when I hear is, all right, let's send it to Nick Lendl for the intros. Then I talk. Then when there's a winner, they'll say something, blah, 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 blah. And then when they pause, Ian will usually point to me, or I'll get a cue from the cameraman, and then I'll announce the winner. But, yeah, it's different because I hear commentary, which is kind of cool because it kind of makes it a little more fun because a lot of the times you're just sitting there, you know, and I'm a huge wrestling fan. I mean, that's why I got into this. But 6-7 hours of just sitting there watching wrestling, it makes it a little more lively to hear the commentary with it.
Yeah, and that's pretty cool. So you're hearing the commentary as it's happening. Like, who gets to do that? That's like watching a football game and having headphones on, like live, and then like hearing the radio broadcast while you're watching. That's like essentially what it is.
Exactly.
That's too cool. You know, we were talking about audibles here, calling an audible. I just thought of something that recently happened to me. It was at a show being filmed for TV, I think, local television. And I'm in the ring, and it's supposed to be boxing-style introductions. Well, the ref, I guess, didn't understand that, and the ref just, like, I'm in the ring ready to start the boxing introductions, and he just, like, calls for the bell, ding, 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 and I'm just like, I'm in the middle of the ring, and I'm like, I look at the ref, and I'm like, what the hell did you just do? And he just, like, looks at me, like, what are you still doing in the ring? And so, like, and me, I'm very, I understand my suit can get ripped, but I hate having to be in the situation where it might rip. So I'm very careful whenever I get out of the ring. I don't jump out of the ring. This time I had to just scram out of the ring because it's two like 300-pound dudes that are just trying to rip each other's heads off. So of course I oversell it and like flop out of the ring and like do a flip, and it was wild. So yeah, but I'm sure you've had to go through plenty of stuff like that and taking bumps, which leads me to something that I wanted to ask and I almost forgot about it. Maria Manic, how was that?
I got knocked out legitimately when that happened.
Really?
Yeah, that was, and that's funny because that was in Pittsburgh too.
Everything happens to you in Pittsburgh. So was that the reason why it happened? Like, oh, it's in Pittsburgh. Let's give him a spot.
So, yeah, I mean, we didn't really go over anything too much. You know, I get to the building and, you know, they just tell me, you know, because I think I was just penciled in to do the dark match and do the hosting or whatever, and they said, you know, would you do a thing with Maria? And I said, yeah, and they just told me what I was going to do. You know, we didn't practice it or anything, and we went in and we did it fine, and everything went the way it was supposed to. And the last thing I remember is her throwing me in the ring, and then I remember coming to, and I remember lifting my head up and like trying to stand up, and in my earpiece they're just telling me to stay down. They're like, you know, stay down, you know, what's wrong with you? Because they think I'm just like no selling it. And meanwhile, I don't know where the hell I am. I'm like all over the place, and I see the ropes, and I realize I'm in a wrestling ring, but at this point I didn't know if I was announcing somebody and I held the name too long and passed out or what happened. And then I see Maria and I realize what happened. They got me out of there. They took me back and, you know, took me to the doctor and whatever. And we watched it how many times, and I don't hit my head. So they're trying to figure out how, you know, what happened. And because they think I have a concussion. And what actually happened was, you know, as a ring announcer, I'm not used to taking bumps, and I mean, I'm married. I have 2 little girls. I mean, I'm not a couch potato, but my gym days and my conditioning days are way behind me, and I'm not used to taking bumps, obviously. So what happened was when she picked me up into the torture rack or whatever you want to call it,
the whiplash from her jumping up and down with me made me black out. And
wow.
Yeah, and we're watching it, and there's a point where she has me up, and right before she bumps me, my arms go limp, and they realize that then I must have just passed out, and I came to, and the rest of the night was kind of loopy for me, but Maria was super cool about it, and that's one thing I got to say is she was super cool about it. My wife and my daughters were watching on pay-per-view or Honor Club, whatever it was, as it was happening, and I didn't tell them that was going to happen.
Oh, boy.
So they're watching it and they're seeing me get beat up. So when I get backstage and after the doctor tells me I'm all right to go hang out and I don't have to be there anymore in the doctor station there, I go and I call my kids, just let them know, hey, I'm okay, and we were just playing around and whatever you have to say to a 6-year-old,
Right.
So as that happened, Maria comes in just check on me, and she's such a sweet girl. She really is. She
I've heard that.
comes and checks on me, and I tell her, oh, I'm fine. I'm talking to my daughter. Well, she gets on the phone, and she tells my daughter, hey, this is Maria. Me and your daddy are actually friends. I didn't really hurt him. We were just playing around, and he's okay. And it was just something that put my kid's mind at ease. Because it was like, I wrestle around with my girls, so it was just kind of like, okay, that's what they were doing. They were just playing around, and she didn't really hurt daddy. And another thing too, like I keep saying, like, she didn't have to do that. She could have said, you okay?
Right.
All right, cool. But she took the time to do that. And, but yeah, that I had taken bumps before. I had been, attacked by bad guys, whatever. But I had never been knocked out in the ring, and that was very scary, especially, for Ring of Honor. I don't want to say I care less about independent shows, but I feel like if it was an independent show, I could have taken my time more to get my bearings and everything. Whereas when I realized what had happened with the Maria situation, we were live on pay-per-view, so I knew I need to get the hell out of the ring, get backstage, get out of the camera shot, So it was a little more pressure there. But yeah, only time I've ever been knocked out. I don't think I've ever told that story,
wow.
In an interview sense, other than just with friends or whatever.
Yeah, and Maria, those of you who don't know what we're talking about, look it up. Maria Manic attacks an announcer for Ring of Honor. Very, very crazy video. Maria, man, I remember whenever they brought her in, I mean, that was just the perfect thing, because I remember they brought her in as this monster, and she's terrifying. She really is. And I've heard she's super nice. But big shout out to
that was part of it. When they brought her in, she wasn't having one-on-one matches yet. She was just coming in randomly and beating up a referee, or coming in randomly and beating up a cameraman or a security or whatever. So it was, okay, what's next? All right, the ring announcer. Well, I'll tell you what, Bobby's not taking that bump.
Hell no.
so we'll have Nick do it. So it's just, but like I said, before and after, I was happy to do it. I'm happy to be a part of it and contribute any way possible.
Right. Yeah. And that was pretty cool. Like I said, what they did with Maria. Anyway, moving on from that, Nick, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to be right back just a few moments. So one quick commercial break, and we'll be right back right after this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back here on The Experience, talking to Nick Lendl, of course, the ring announcer of ROH. And before we go, because we just a little bit more, and we'll probably shut it down. So nearing down to the end of this episode, we didn't really get a chance to talk about just you growing up and watching wrestling. But over time, who were some of the ring announcers that you looked up to? Some of the ring announcers that you thought were just awesome growing up.
Tony Chimmel.
Oh yes.
Yeah, it's always been Tony Chimmel. Obviously, everyone's always going to say that Howard Finkel is the best of all time, and I don't think as good as Bobby is, or Greg Hamilton, Mike Rome, me, whoever you want to talk about. I don't think anyone will ever be considered better than Howard Finkel. And but to me, watching wrestling, I always liked when Tony Chimmel announced.
Yes.
And I don't know if it was because I could understand what he was saying more, or if it was his style that I liked. But my favorite announcer was always Tony Chimmel. And even when I started, my very early wrestling shows, probably my first 6 months in, if you go back and watch, my announcing is 100% a ripoff of Tony Chimmel. I just did it the exact way Tony Chimmel would. And as the years and time went on, I developed my own style. I kind of like to say my style is a mix between Bobby Cruz, Tony Chimmel, and Justin Roberts. All mashed together. But to me, and I don't know why. I was never really a big fan of Lillian Garcia's announcing.
Right.
I've never met her. Probably a very nice lady.
Of course.
She was there a long time, so she was obviously, respected in the locker room or what have you. But to me, no one has since been as good as Tony Chimmel. And we're bringing up a lot of negatives on this show. A lot of people dying and everything. And
it's okay.
Tony Chimmel actually was just released from the company. He's been there since.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Good point. Yeah.
Yeah. They released him from his contract a few weeks ago, and I hope he lands on his feet. Or, he's been with the company for a while. I'm not sure how old he is. He's not an old man, but
yeah.
He's not a young boy either. So I hope he has some money saved, and I hope his family's in a good position.
Oh, yeah,
but
I'm sure.
To me, it's like Tony Chimmel is still. And anytime I get asked this, Tony Chimmel will always be my favorite ring announcer. Just something about the way he projected his voice and the way he held certain last names and everything.
Oh yeah.
Just got to me a little more than Finkel, I think.
Right.
And I don't know why.
Right, and I had a strange feeling that you were going to say Howard Finkel, because that's everybody says Howard Finkel. Dude, that is the best answer. Tony Chimmel is one of those guys that I could literally just put headphones on and I could listen to him just announce. Like, no wrestling, just a compilation of Tony Chimmel announcing. And just, Friday nights on SmackDown or back on Raw, whatever, WWF Raw, whatever. Dude, just like his delivery was so good. It's perfect. It's so good. And I understand WWE released him and he was doing stuff behind the scenes. And I don't know. I think Michael Cole had the position of like coaching the ring announcers and telling them what to do.
Yes.
Honestly, dude, I don't know what Tony was really doing, but if you wanted someone to coach the ring announcers, I don't know if he was okay with doing it or not, but Tony Chimmel would have been the best person for that job. I mean, come on, other than because like I've heard that Michael Cole trains the announcers, which doesn't make any sense because when's the last time you ever seen Michael Cole ring announce?
Yeah, I know that. Michael Cole is in charge of the entire announcing system, whether it be ring announcers, commentators, backstage interviewers, what have you.
Right.
Yeah, Michael Cole's in charge of all that, because I know even up to a few years ago when I was talking back and forth, it was people talking to me on behalf of Michael Cole. The emails would always say would always start, on behalf of Mr. Cole, or Mr. Cole would like us to let you know, or Mr. Cole says, it's just like, yeah, he's very much in charge of the whole deal up there. He's been there for a long time too.
He has been there for a very long time. Big shout out to Michael Cole. I mean, he is the real deal. He is the real deal. Absolutely. Who knows? He probably knows. He probably is a ring announcing expert, and we just don't know it, But to me, if I would have someone in charge of hiring ring announcers, I would have a ring announcer, a former ring announcer, and then commentators. I would give it to Michael Cole, because there's nobody better than commentary than Michael Cole. But anyway, moving on from that, I have to say one thing that I've noticed that you do, and I don't want to say that I've stole this from you, but I have taken notes, and I'm starting to add this in, is whenever you announce the main events. Of course, those of you out there that don't know, but whenever you announce the main card, you announce the matches. But whenever it's the main event, you put a little extra on it. You put a little bit more seasoning on it, I'd like to say. And it's a little bit more louder, a little bit more aggressive, a little bit longer. And I love how you stretch out people's names, and I think is just perfect. And I've kind of started doing that a little bit. What made you decide to do that?
I started doing that a few months ago. I've always told people that boxing announcing and wrestling announcing is so different in the sense that, wrestling, you just kind of, you don't hold it too long, whereas boxing is more of an exaggerated, like you hold the name and you hold the nickname.
It's more of a show.
It's more of an exaggerated announcement.
Yeah.
And I don't know when I started it, but I just said one day, I'm going to do, for the main event intro for this show, I'm going to do the boxing style intro, and that's what I call it. I hold the last name or the first name, whatever it may be, a little longer, and I started doing it on some independent shows. And I know I did a show with, I think, Brian Pillman Jr. was in the main event, and I held the Pillman really long, and I got a lot of compliments on it. A lot of people said that, you don't see that in announcing anymore. And
right.
It was just something I remember that when, like I mentioned, when I started, I just totally ripped off Tony Chimmel. And I was told from people in Ring of Honor, et cetera, that I needed to kind of develop my own style.
Wow, that's nice.
And I thought that, if no one else is doing it this way, I'm just going to try it.
Yeah.
So I did it at the one show, and, I got a lot of DMs and messages and compliments about it. So I thought, okay, that went over well. And I started doing it for a couple shows here and there. And then I did it for the final match in the Pure tournament with Gresham and Tracy Williams. And I didn't know if I wanted to do it because, it was taking a chance, because I had never done that on TV for Ring of Honor. I had always just done the strict wrestling announcing, like you normally do. And I said to Joe Mandek, who's referees, one of my best friends in the business and out of the business, I said, I think tomorrow, because we were driving home from the arena, driving to the hotel, I should say. We had one more day of taping, and that was going to feature the title tournament final. And I said, I think tomorrow I'm going to take a chance on myself, and I'm going to do the boxing style intros for the main event. And he looked at me and he said, "You think so?" And I said, "Yeah, you know what, man, they're either going to love it or they're going to hate it." And I said, if they hate it, they'll let me know. And so I'm just going to try it, because whether it's good or bad, it will stand out. And, the biggest thing is just standing out. So I went and I did it, and I got such positive reactions to it. People backstage were telling me how great it sounded, how different it was, how refreshing it was to hear a different kind of announcement. And the biggest compliment you can get is from the wrestlers. Jonathan Gresham pulled aside and said, your intro got me pumped up for the bell to ring. And I think that's the biggest compliment you can get from somebody, is your intro is getting them their adrenaline flowing for that bell to ring. And afterwards, like I said, everybody from Jonathan Gresham to staff were telling me how good it was. And Bobby Cruz even messaged me, said, "Hey, man, great job." So I just kind of started doing that for main events, and I only do it for main events.
Nice.
So, like you said, you stole it or whatever you said, but I think it's just something different.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to be in this business, is different, because if you're like everybody else, no one's going to notice you.
Right. And you mentioned finding your own style, and I felt like that, like, recently as I started getting more and comfortable into it and finding my own style. And the guy that actually trained me, Rod Sterling, I'll definitely shout him out. Great announcer, by the way. He's got an incredible voice. He was the one that was just like, "Dude, you're finding your own style." Like, I never, found my style. He's like, "You've got it." Like, and I kind of feel like I have, but But it's just the subtle differences, and we talked about it earlier. Like the ring announcer could be golden, could be incredible, or the ring announcer could be the drizzling shits. But like, the crowd ain't gonna even really talk about it whenever they leave. They're there for the wrestling, and that's pretty much our job, is just enhancement. We're just there to enhance the product. We're there to make the wrestlers look like superstars.
Exactly, and it's like a kicker on a football team. You're usually only ever pulled aside or talked to if you screw something up. If no one talks to you and no one says anything to you, then you probably did a good job. But if someone pulls you aside and says, "Hey, that you screwed that up," that's what I liken it to. But it's gotten to the point where people are coming up to me, pulling me aside, and telling me, "Hey, man, I really love when you announce me. It really gets me." It really gets my blood flowing for the match or whatever it may be, rather than, "Hey, man, you announced me from Pittsburgh and I'm from Hershey," or, whatever, whatever the deal may be.
Same thing. Well, not really. I don't want to upset anybody from Hershey. I'm sorry. But anyways, no, man, moving on a little bit. Like I said, we're nearing down to the end of this episode. Really quick, who is someone that you love to announce? You love to announce their name.
Right now it's probably Gresham. Gresham's probably my favorite guy right now. For a while, I was really getting into the Wardlow introduction. Wardlow is from IWC, and now he's part of AEW along with MJF. So I always used to get into the Wardlow entrance. Jonathan Gresham is another one. Trying to think. I'd probably say those two more than anything I've gotten into, just because they have just this aura about them. And, in IWC, Wardlow was the top guy. For a number of years, Wardlow was our top guy. He was the champion. So especially those main event style intros, when there's no music playing, it's just you and the two guys in the ring and the referee, that. And of course we do at IWC, they do a show called Reloaded every year, where every championship is defended against a random, challenger.
Ooh, I like that.
And the one year they had Jonathan Gresham as the random challenger for one of our championships, and the crowd just went nuts.
Ooh.
So when the crowd's behind you and the crowd's excited, that gets your adrenaline flowing too, because I've never gotten so into an introduction and loud and holding the notes and getting red in the face whenever no one's clapping or no one cares,
Right. Well, yeah, and then you had to do that with absolute silence just recently with the with the whole tournament, because that was really cool. I was popping hard whenever you were announcing Jonathan Gresham, and it's sad like there's no one there to applaud during that stretch, because I bet you've got a lot of people. I noticed that like whenever you stretch out someone's last name, people start and it's a pretty cool feeling. It's for the wrestlers, but there's a reason why they're popping. It's not because the wrestlers are in the ring. It's kind of because you're announcing their name, and it's the time for them to pop. So it's kind of a cool feeling. But anyways, man, I thank you so much, Nick, for joining me. It's been a great episode. Whole bunch of stuff that we covered today. Before we leave, man, you got to give me the social media handles. How do we follow you on social media?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. All my stuff, I have all kinds of demos, and I'm pretty sure that Ring of Honor, IWC, whatever it may be, posts all my backstage interviews, what have you. So if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you can just search my name, and I'm sure a bunch of stuff will come up. Other than that, I'm on Twitter at Nick Lendl, just my name, at Nick Lendl, and I'm on Instagram at Nick Lendl Announcer. So on there, I usually post all my upcoming shows, where I'm going to be this weekend. I'm going to be with IWC again in Elizabeth, PA, for the Pittsburgh Pro Wrestling Classic. It's the third annual. They started that a few years ago. Pretty big event. Brian Pillman Jr.'s on the show, I believe, a couple other names. So, I'm looking forward to that. But, especially with, everything that's going on in the world. But, I've been home a lot more. It's, last couple of years I've been in a different state, different city every weekend. And now it's, I'm down to like 1 or 2 shows a month. So
oh, wow.
A lot more time home, which, I can't complain about. I get a lot more time with my girls, but
right.
You get that bug. You want to get back out there, man, and doing it once or twice a month whenever you've been used to doing it 7 or 8. It's just not the same.
Right. I completely understand. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. You get a lot more home time, and I've heard the same thing from a lot of people. It's great to be back at home. But before we leave, any last words for the people listening out there? Maybe someone who's thought about ring announcing, if they want to do it. Last words.
It's just one of those things where you have to be persistent. It's one of those things where, there are how many people out there that love a certain quarterback and hate a certain quarterback. So many people are going to tell you that Tom Brady's the greatest quarterback of all time, and then so many people are going to tell you that Tom Brady's a cheater and he sucks and whatever the deal may be. So the point I'm trying to make from that is, if you start out at your local indie or whatever it may be, and somebody tells you no, that doesn't mean that everybody's going to tell you no. That's what that one guy said.
Yeah.
I know a guy, and he's one of my best friends in the business, and I won't bring up his name, but when he did his first tryout, he was told by the promoter that he would never be a wrestler, and kind of like you said, oh, you can't wrestle, kid, here's a mic. Well, it was that way with him, only it was a referee shirt. Hey, kid, you ain't never going to wrestle. Here's a referee shirt. And 5 years later, this guy's booked consistently with IWC. He's been in a main event program for the last 2 or 3 years, one of the most over characters in the company. And I'll tell you what, that promoter does not run that company anymore. And he came back for a visit a few years ago, and the look on his face when he realized that that's the kid that I told to be a referee, he was in the main event that night.
Wow.
So if you want to be a ring announcer, if you want to be a referee, if you have no plan B, if that is what you want to do, you can do it. I mean, look how I broke in. I had to pay $2,000, fly myself to Florida just for an opportunity to stand in a WWE ring. You might have to drive across the country for your opportunity, but if you don't get it, you won't get it.
Right.
It won't come to you. Like I said, every opportunity I've gotten has been because I've gone for it. I jumped in that car to the Monster Factory with those guys. I drove to North Carolina for that ROH show. Mm-hmm. No one was giving me anything, but this is what I wanted to do. And I've done it, and I've lived my dream. And the most important thing about anything I've done, and even above Madison Square Garden, is the sense that when my girls get old enough to realize that they have a dream or they have a passion, they can look at the example of me in their own home and say, my dad had a dream, and he went and he chased it and he got it.
Right.
Because, their teachers and their friends and whoever is going to tell them their whole life, if you put your mind to something, you can really do it, and all that BS. But if they have an example at home, they're going to know that they can do whatever they want, and that's what's most important to me.
Right. Very good. Well said. Absolutely. And you definitely did it. And like I said, who's laughing now? I mean, my God. You're killing it, man. You are the real deal. Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, great episode. Very good episode. Ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Nick Lendl. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Nick Lendl, this has been Bryce Bourdeaux. This has been The Experience with Bryce Bourdeaux. We are out of time. Let's roll the outro.
Only the biggest and best names in professional wrestling interviewed right here on The Experience. Follow The Experience on Facebook at The Experience with Bryce Bourdeaux. On Instagram at The Experience Live. Like, subscribe, and follow on this app.